So today's about 401ks, and we're going to dig a little bit deeper into 401ks than we normally do. So we've got 4 experts on the panel here today. We have 2 gentlemen that I'm going to introduce, and they're going to introduce their counterparts here today. But today's all about properly managing your 401ks and some of the risks involved. So I'm going to start off with Zach. Where's Zach? Okay, here we go, bud. Come on up. So Zach Gottman has been a financial advisor for 9 years and has worked in the financial industry for most of his life. Zach grew up in his parents' wealth management firm, which taught him many valuable lessons on investing, money, and how people view the two areas together. Zach is certified as an accredited asset management specialist and a certified plan fiduciary advisor. Zach specializes in company retirement plans, as he loves educating employees on all aspects of financial planning. So Zach's going to introduce Mike.
God, I hear my name this many times in a row, I'm usually in trouble. This is my partner, Mike Dorgan. He runs the Master's Finance program at Mizzou. He is a PhD, which I still struggle to spell. One of the most brilliant guys in finance, not only in educating you, but just in having a vision towards the future. His list of accomplishments is so long, it would bore you by the time I'm done with it. Alan?
Great. And then Alan is the managing partner of LaPlata Flegal and Company and has been with the firm since its inception in 1990. He has worked for 37 years in public accounting, including 8 years with LaPlata Flegal's national predecessor firm. Alan's client service responsibilities are primarily in the ERISA, accounting, auditing, financial reporting, business and tax planning areas. He focuses on serving owner-managed businesses in manufacturing and distribution, retail, and service industries. His expertise also includes mergers and acquisitions, where he's led many due diligence projects and succession. Alan serves as treasurer on 2 not-for-profit boards. So welcome, Alan.
Thank you. Thanks, Tom, and thanks for your years of dedication to this group. It's incredible how many people show up and are involved. Our firm, LaPlata Flegal, has been around forever. We are involved in helping clients manage their 401ks. We are not administrators. We primarily serve as consultants and as auditors for plans that are required to have audits. Kelly Capiano is a manager with our firm, and she reviews and touches and supervises the audits of every plan that our firm is involved with and has incredible knowledge and participated in all the DOL conferences and all the information to stay current, and it's quite overwhelming. So with that, okay, so go back to Zach. Go back to Zach.
I think I'm loud enough. Can everybody hear me? There you go. Everybody asleep already, digging into your phone as I'm staring at mine. I wish I could time myself and don't talk too long. Hi everybody, my name is Zach Gottman. I think some of you in this room probably have seen my face before, and I'm sorry for it. We're here to talk today about 401ks, which I'm really glad you guys braved the rain this morning to come out here for it. I know it's probably not the most interesting topic for you to wake up on a Friday, tough the rain out, and go, what the heck is this guy talking about? Why am I listening to this? We're going to take a little bit different of an approach when it comes to 401ks. I'm going to cover parts for the plan sponsors, those of you guys who are responsible for plans, and then we're going to touch on for the participants as well, the people who benefit most from the plans, which is everyone involved. 401ks are really about the team, and everything that we do is based on a team approach. Part of it is knowing who your team is when it comes to helping you get through your plan. Who's the fiduciary on the plan? That's generally the plan sponsor. Generally it's an owner of a company. Sometimes it's on a board. Who's the administrator inside of the plan? Who's the third party administrator? Somebody like Wes at Benefit Plans Plus, who's amazing. And I don't see him all of a sudden. I'm sure he ran off. Hi Wes. Who's the record keeper? Is it somebody like Voya, and then you get to call someone like Kim Boyette, who does an incredible job helping people understand their plan and manage their costs. Who is the auditor on the plan? LaPlata Flegal is out speaking with us today. They do a wonderful job helping you audit your plan if you have more than 100 participants. Some of the boring stuff. What is the point of your plan? What's your goal? Why do you have a plan to begin with? What are you hoping to accomplish? I think these questions kind of get overlooked a lot when it comes to having a plan because we all just assume we should just have one. But anybody who has run a 401k either as an administrator or as an advisor understands that there's a lot more to these plans than just taking them out of the box, setting them down, and letting them go. And one of the biggest mistakes that a lot of us make who have plans that are owners of companies are we just assume that we can just pull it out of the box and it'll work. And I don't have to check it very often, and my advisor kind of knows what he's doing, and you know, the employees are kind of participating, and yeah, it seems to be fine. And it just kind of drifts over the years, and then we kind of run into problems. And we want to help you avoid those, and that's part of what we're going to talk about today. Part of also what we're going to talk about, and what I'm going to touch on now, is some of the new updates. Our government finally had decided to agree on something, and it's called the Secure Act. And we generally say when it comes to 401k plans, the courts and the Congress are the ones who make this the most complicated of all. This is one of the times that they've actually made it easier for us. Some of the additions that they've added, so for those of you who are plan sponsors, it's really important to understand, or for those of you who run a company, or involved in a company that doesn't have a plan, some of the stuff is really beneficial for you going forward. One of them is the new credit that they're offering for anyone who starts a new plan. It used to be $500 a year for 3 years. Now they'll pay you $250 an employee, up to $5,000 for a new plan to start. Not a bad deal. We really want people saving here. Most of us are nowhere near saving enough. The second credit that they're offering is what's called auto-enrollment, something I will touch on later. If you add auto-enrollment to your plan and do not have it currently, I'll give you another $500 credit, even if the plan is already established. Pretty cool, huh? So auto-enrollment is, and I'll touch on it now only for the fact that it's important to understand, auto-enrollment makes our lives really, really easy because guess what? Based on a certain time, you automatically enroll in the plan, you don't even have to think about it. Most of us have way too many things that we already have to think about in our day. We don't always think about saving for retirement. As I generally give in most of my presentations the point, the average American works 2,000 hours a year, closer to 1,700, which means they work about 800 hours a year of actual work. They spend 2 weeks planning their next vacation and less than 1 day planning what to do with their money. It's getting scary, and you think about it. Like, what do we do with the money that we make? What do? We spend it, right? What do we do if there's something left? Well, we spend that too. It's called Parkinson's Law. Our expenditures will always rise to meet our income level. And what do we do if that's not enough? It's called debt. So, it is one of those things that if auto-enrollment is not in your plan, use it. Make our lives easier. It's why we pay our bills as easily as we do. It's why we put our Apple Pay on our phone or Samsung Pay. Because it just makes our life easier. Makes saving easier. And auto-escalation is another part that they improved with the new Secure Act. It used to be you could only escalate to 10% of your income, which I know most of you are probably going, oh my goodness, save 10% of what I make. I can't do it. Now you can go up to 15. And let's face it, most of us aren't saving enough to begin with, so 15 sounds like a stretch. What are your goals? What are your plans? Other parts of the new Secure Act are you can add a safe harbor at any time. If you're run a plan now and do not know what a safe harbor is, contact your advisor or your third-party administrator. You can also now add annuities and create a safe harbor that way. Don't want to touch that one. There's another part called a MEP, Multiple Employer Plan. I was talking to Kim and Wes, who are very excited about it, Kim Boyette and Boya, and Wes at Benefit Plans Plus. As I said before, if you run plans and have not met them, you should. They were very excited about it. Again, I think this is a case-by-case basis. Multiple employer plans are designed to help you reduce your costs. I think you really have to look at the situation. For those of you who like to take loans based on the new Secure Act, sorry, you cannot take them on a credit card any longer. Disappointment for some, I imagine. One of the last credits I want to touch, and then we're going to move on from the new Secure Act, is if you have a child, either by birth or by adoption, you can take $5,000 out of your plan without the 10% penalty in the first year. Okay? Boring? Good. We go back to the beginning, and I asked, what's the goal of your plan? What's the point? Why are you have a plan to begin with? What are you trying to accomplish with your plan? When you set one up, how do you know that you're being successful? You know, to measure outcomes, they have to be defined, they have to be measured, and they have to be managed to create success. How do you know that your plan is successful? What is it? Is it the participation rate? How many of your employees are actually contributing to the plan? Is it the deferral rate? How much people are putting into these plans to begin with? It is important because, again, although we say it all the time, and yes, 401k balances are the highest they've ever been because our market's the highest it's ever been. People are still not saving enough for the future. Is it the diversification inside of your plans, the amount of funds that you have? Some plans have way too many funds, some plans have way too little funds. Some plans, I don't know, there's no such thing as just about right, but it's all about what you need and what's important to you. Or is it the income replacement ratio? The amount of money that you get to take out of your plan when you retire. Remember, all the money that you put into these plans gets taken out before tax, reduce your tax. So when you take it out at the end, and the reason I'm saying this actually, I'm going to paraphrase this because I know some people are going to roll their eyes going, yeah, we know this. I give this presentation a lot. I'm amazed at how many people still don't know that when you take money out of your 401k, you have to figure your taxes in there. You know, one of the biggest problems that we all face is our education in the financial area. And Mike and I are going to touch on it a little bit as well, and probably do it a little bit more humorously than we should, but it's because there's so many terms in this financial area that we just don't understand yet. Every single one of us put on clothes today to come out here, and as Nick Naylor once said, so we can pay the mortgage. The point is we all get up every day so we can pay our bills, so we can save for a better tomorrow, so we can put money away. That's what a 401k is designed to do for most. You know, as an employer, what's your goal? Is your goal to attract talent? Which is interesting, we find that's one of the least important things. It actually surprised me when we saw that. When we saw a survey, it wasn't even close. It was way towards the bottom. Is it to save for the future? Is it to help your employees? Again, going back, how do you measure that you're being successful? How do you know that your plan is successful? How do you know? What is your process in place? When you put a team together, as I mentioned earlier, how do you know what their roles and responsibilities are? These are the things as a plan sponsor you actually have to think about. Do you write down your process? Do you keep notes? If your administrator left, and I don't need to show a hand, but some of you who own companies have the assistant or one person who not only runs the plan, but runs the entire office, and they're the linchpin. And if you died, the company may go on. If they left, the company would fall apart. We see it all the time. And in fact, some businesses wish the owner would. What is the process that you have in place and documented so if that person were to leave or you were to add on, you would know that it would continue to be successful? These are the things that we are seeing not happening over and over and over again. And we want you to be successful with these plans because at the end of the day, they're more complex than we'd like them to be. And at the end of the day, there are guys out there like a gentleman named Jerry Schlichter who is suing you if you don't get it right. And based on what the courts and the Congress have decided, you're gonna lose. Fidelity got sued. Adidas got sued. Adidas, who owns Vanguard, or has Vanguard as their record keeper. Everybody knows Vanguard. Cheap as can be, at least in all of our eyes, is a basic premise. They lost their case because they had the wrong Vanguard funds in them. By 2 basis points. This is why I ask everybody to pay attention to what they're doing. To have a process in place. To have what they call an investment policy statement. Again, if you run a plan, have an advisor explain what an investment policy statement is. And if they look at you blankly, I ain't another advisor. You'd be amazed. Look, all you have to do is be an advisor, is pass an exam. Not that hard. Even I did it. It was a miracle. It's important that you have a really well-documented process in place, because the success of these plans for a lot of people is vital. How much money should one of these plans go towards your retirement? How much? Anybody actually think about it? As an owner, some actually do. You know, owners have a decision to make of how responsible they want to be for the plan. And I saw this laid out really well once. They called it choice. You as the employee, you have a choice. You can get in, great. If you don't, great. Doesn't matter. It can be informed. Look, I want my team to understand that we have a plan. It's here. This is what it does. You choose it, great. You know, great. Or it could be ready. My job, my goal, and we see it in certain sectors a little bit more than others, is to get you ready to retire. I feel paternalistically responsible for you. There's no right. There's no wrong, but it is definitely a preference and something we see. What do you want to be as an owner of a plan? And how do you want to guide your team going forward? I lost track of time. When you do these plans, how are you educating your team? How are you teaching them, or not teaching them, what is it that is successful for them? When you set up automatic deferrals, and if you do that, how do you know what the right number is? These are all questions that we go in and we ask plan sponsors all the time, and we're amazed consistently at how little we thought of it. And so we come out today to give this presentation not as much to teach you how to do a plan properly, but how to ask the right questions when you go back and look at your plan. Because your plan is individual to you. The success of your team, the success of the people who help you be successful is vital. It's really important. We as a nation are not saving enough money. We as a group of people are well behind in a lot of cases for the future that we have no idea what's going to exist. We don't understand what we're investing in as well as we should. I mean, heck, I've seen people stare at labels in the grocery store at their food for 5 minutes. I bet they didn't spend 2 seconds looking at what they bought, what they put their money into in their investments. It's because we just don't know. It's like, you know, when you had those subjects in school as a kid, the ones that you didn't understand because either the teacher didn't explain it to you or because you just didn't get it, you just hated it. I find when I use the words like mutual fund, most people just cringe. Internally, because nobody wants to tell anyone that they actually don't know what a mutual fund actually is. We say words and we're going to talk about it later, target date fund. Another one, where we mention it, and most people just have no idea what it actually means. Yet, I would be willing to bet a lot of the people in this room that most of their money is. What does it do? You know, if you were to stop and think about it, for most people, your largest investment is your 401k, not a house. A house is not an investment. And you probably understand very little about it. And having knowledge, having an understanding, having an education about it, because let's just face it, for most of us, our financial education came from 2 places. Our parents and the television. And I'm never sure who did a worse job. It's terrifying. I bored him. So, anyways, with that said, I want you to walk away with the questions. What's the point of my plan? What's my goal? How do we measure? What are going to be the most important factors? How do we decide what funds are in there? How do we run it as a process? Who's on my team to get it done? And how does this benefit my team going forward? There's so much you could do to help each other. And as an owner of a plan, there's so much you can do to create greater focus for your employees. Because let's face it, in our lives, we think about two things more than anything else. And if you can help them with one of them, maybe they'll have a little bit more focus at work. With that, I introduce my partner, Mike Dorrigan, who's the actual brains of all of this anyways. And I thank him.
Hi, Barsek. Hi, Bar. Jeremy Piven tells a story. When he returned to the comedy circuit from acting, he was in all these small clubs, a couple of dozen tables, a few score of people, the lights in his face, this really tiny stage. And he came to a punchline in the middle of his set, and that's why I'm a thespian. And he was met with complete silence. Didn't really know what was going on out there because of the lights, but then from in back of the club, he heard this voice cry out, "Use smaller words." And we have taken that as a bit of a theme this year. It's a lesson we have to learn if we're going to provide the guidance, the encouragement, the advice to participants. So my ideas here are going to be short and focused strictly on what is it we can do to make the participant life better. And it's good news, as Jack
It's my wife all over again.
As Zach mentioned, we're united on this, right? The survey shows that your number one priority is participant outcomes at this point. Go on is the competitive advantage in hiring, and now it's the focus on, we do this for a purpose, and the purpose, as the survey tells us, is let's get these folks in a good position at retirement. All right, now, that unites us in a challenge. Right? And if I was one of those motivation guys, I'd say opportunity. But I'm calling it a challenge because we've seen who it is that's participating, right? We have been on the shop floors, we have been in the plants, and educating folks on finance is difficult. And so I'd like to give just a couple of quick anecdotes as to what we're facing as sponsors and advisors. We were in a local plant. We just took over the 401k. We got all the participants in for a lunch. We go through 40 minutes explaining what's going on, what we're going to do, how we're going to get people moving in the right direction. And then we closed things down and shook a few hands and asked, you have any questions, thinking, well, folks might not be motivated to speak in front of their peers, but maybe one-on-one. And the first question that was asked was, what is all this? All right, now we're 40 minutes in.
Fail.
That's on us. That's on us. We missed. We have a non-participant explain to us he's not going to participate in his sponsor's plan because he doesn't trust us. We haven't earned his trust. Now, my first reaction, of course, is, what's up with this thing? A little upside the head with that. It's on me. Whatever it was, as we sat and met with the group and explained what's going on, we did not do enough. So gone are my anger days of going, it's you, and now it's got to be us that changes the nature of our approach to these participants. And so that's the game, right? We got to change the delivery and move away from some of the big errors that we've seen in the past. And in terms of big errors, as a bit of the alleged comedy of what's going on here, I've got a quick set of things we've come across as we've reviewed other people's materials and approaches to educating these participants. For example, I don't think you want to say, do you have a contingent liquidity facility for emergencies?
You're supposed to just simply ask, do you have money in case things go wrong? Rainy day fund.
Where's the cash? Live reading from another participant or advisor. A 401k is a tax-deferred retirement plan authorized by Internal Revenue Code, paragraph 401.
Okay, so really simply, and a lot of people, I'll tell you, don't understand this. A 401k is a place where you can put your money. And it's a place to defer for retirement. Yes, I know Kim's probably about to throw something at me for using that example or using it that way, but 401k, just think of it as your savings for the future.
Diversification is a process whereby assets are combined in certain proportion based on pairwise correlations in an effort to minimize risk relative to return.
Don't put all your eggs in one basket, please. Please. Unless you're willing to watch that basket.
We're in the warehouse. Two more, if you'll suffer through me. Stock represents equity claim to residual cash flows of a firm and a proportional claim to merger proceeds or the corpus of the firm in bankruptcy.
We actually heard that statement, just so you know, and I heard an advisor just cringe at that. Really, at the end of the day, know what you're buying and why. Seriously, know what you're buying and why. If you don't understand what you're buying, ask someone who knows.
And finally, it's the tough one, so stay with me. As the market softens, often the case is correlation moves away from its historical norms towards unity. Now that's one, by the way.
So really, based
on thereby destroying the diversification characteristics for which the assets were originally brought to the portfolio.
basically, behavioral finance says that we're all lemmings a lot of times. You know, the herd behavior, the herd's not always wrong, just so you know, because the herd is what sets the market. That's why a lot of people do indexes, but we are lemmings. Because he's doing it, I'm doing it, it's much safer that way. As the old saying went, it's not, no one got fired for hiring IBM. Go.
So we have some concrete proposals, and I'll just list it instead of describing all of them. But as we approach this, we're going to stay away from the fun. Do you have some cash? Do you have life insurance to protect yourself in the case of tragedy, you or your family? Right? Do you have a budget? Now, will that budget allow for participation in this plan? Then, it becomes just a small portion of what we're trying to do in this advising process. And finally, and again, a bit of a punchline and a punch to the gut to some, do you know who your beneficiaries are if you're participating in this plan?
You'll be amazed how many people in this room are actually giving your money to an old spouse. Seriously, you guys are, and just so people know in the structure of this, not only are you giving your money to an old spouse of yours that you would, I have all sorts of words for, there's no way to fix it unless you do it. Your estate plan does not override or supersede your beneficiaries in your 401k. Just so you know. And a lot of people are surprised to find that out. So this year, make it a challenge to yourself. Go review your beneficiaries. Not really hard to do. Okay. That's it for us then. I really appreciate it. I hope everybody enjoyed.
So I'm going to speak a little bit more on a detail level from the plan sponsor. Just because Zach and Mike mentioned it, that beneficiary form, recirculate them to the employees once a year, once every couple of years. I've got a situation right now where there's long-term divorce, and the spouse is still named as the beneficiary, but there is a document in the divorce agreement that they dissolve their rights. So now it's, I don't know that it's clear, it's going to be negotiated out, but it's a mess. So just have your employees review their beneficiary form. The biggest thing we deal with as auditors is finding out that the plan sponsor truly doesn't understand the plan that they have. Mike, you need, okay. that the employees don't understand the plan they have, or even the sponsor doesn't understand the plan they have. So it starts with filling out an adoption agreement, which everyone has. It's about 30, 40, 50 pages of questions. Whatever you do, don't let your advisor just fill it out. Plan a meeting, plan a follow-up meeting to go through those questions. There's important questions that are in that adoption agreement, which is how you will operate the plan. Like, will you allow hardships? Are you going to allow loans? Are your contributions going to be pre-tax, or are you going to allow Roths? And then you have to comply, and then you have to communicate to the employees. And you have to make sure they understand the choices that you make. So it should be filled out by management, by the plan sponsor, the financial people need to be involved, the payroll people have to be involved. So many times payroll people, HR is usually involved, but payroll is left out. The payroll people have to be involved. And then it's all about communicating it to the entire team. I also recommend that you review that adoption agreement once a year and see if anything's changed. These guys spoke about the need for these 401k plans. It used to be truly a benefit, something extra you offered in employment. Now it's like the third or fourth question anyone asks when they're interviewing, what's your 401k? So it's pretty much assumed to be competitive, you have to have a 401k. It's important you understand, the payroll people have to understand how the withholdings are done, and the employees have to understand. The automatic deferrals are great because they definitely increase participation, and they help those people that wouldn't otherwise be saving from their retirement. But I also find it's important to make sure the employees know they're enrolled, because there's nothing worse than, well, it's a lot worse, but not a big thing that when you start taking money out of someone's paycheck and then 3 months later they figure out my paycheck went down and they didn't want to be involved. So as much as I do encourage automatic enrollment, I also encourage making the employees agree or affirm that they want to be participants in the plan. Zach mentioned safe harbor plans. So safe harbor plans are plans that eliminate a lot of the testing that goes along with it. So you can fail all sorts of discrimination testing where the highly paid participant, highly paid officers, executives, owners, their family participate at a much higher rate than the rank and file employee. And then what you end up having is someone puts in their maximum 19.5 or the catch up with initial $6,000, and then you find out at the end of the year they weren't allowed to put all that in, so they get it all back and it's taxable, and they don't have enough withholding, and it's a big mess. So one way around that is to establish a safe harbor plan. So a safe harbor plan is more or less what you contribute on behalf of your employees that eliminates, I won't say all the testing, but about 80% of the governmental testing. So if a company can afford to do the safe harbor plan, we always recommend safe harbor. What the safe harbor does is there are basically two types of safe harbor plans. The first is you match 100% of the employees' first 3% and then 50% of the next 2%. So you're contributing 4% of the employees' eligible wages to the extent they are putting in 5%. The other safe harbor, which is called a non-elective safe harbor, which is a very liberal way of doing it, is where you contribute 3% of eligible wages, whether or not the employee participates. So that's a good way to help employees save for retirement who truly can't afford to take anything out of their paycheck. So then you get everyone participating in the plan. So it's a 3% of eligible compensation, and you decide which is your definition of eligibility. Our firm does I don't know, a couple, 15 or so of these 401k audits. An audit is required for what they define as large plans. Large plans are those with over 100 participants. A participant is counted as someone eligible to participate in the plan, whether they're participating or not, and anybody who has an account balance who've left the plan. So if you're around 100, you want to make sure that when people leave the company, you get them to roll their balances out. The law allows you to automatically remove them if they have if their balance is under $5,000, but encourage them to leave. There's also what we call an 80-120 rule that says if you just creep over the 100, you won't be subject to that audit. The audit is pretty in-depth. It's a compliance audit. We participate with seminars that are conducted by the AICPA, American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, Department of Labor, and the IRS. Retirement plans are monitored by both the Department of Labor and the IRS. We always caution people when they're making changes on communications. Zach talked about the amount of lawyers that are out there doing class action lawsuits for such minor things. I mean, when he says 2 basis points on a fund because there was a similar option at a lower basis point, that's 2/100ths of 1%. To someone it can be $5 a year, but the lawyers on a class action suit are going to take 1/3. So they're out there looking for these type of plans, usually not with the smaller plans because there's not enough dollars, but you just got to monitor your plan. Big thing we find screwed up is when you're selecting is the definition of compensation. When you're filling out that adoption agreement, there are lots of choices in terms of how you define compensation. Simply, most people will check the box that says W-2 wages. Almost in all cases, that's wrong because you end up having non-cash contributions. You have disability insurance, you have life insurance, you have an auto allowance, you have different things that add to your W-2 that aren't subject to withholding. So now you have to contribute extra for wages that weren't paid. And it's a big mess, and invariably it's wrong. So we always encourage people to talk to their tax advisors, talk to their plan advisors, and most commonly we say what's called the IRS 3401 wages, which is wages subject to withholding. That's the best selection, but we find that is probably our most common error, is people don't understand the definition of compensation in the plan. Talking to employees, notifying the employees about when they become eligible. Most plans have anywhere from 30 days to a year before they become eligible. Make sure your employees know when they become eligible. There has to be a system so that they're communicated with when they become eligible. Always pick an advisor who will be face-to-face, whether it's group meetings or individual meetings. If you offer those meetings where someone can come and listen face-to-face, ask their questions, you're so much better off. So if you have lots of plans throughout the country, make sure it's a plan advisor who's willing to travel and go in front of your employees and explain to them and answer those questions. Because we get people come in to confirm their balances because we've sent them, as auditors, we send out confirmations. They don't respond. The employer says, well, let's just have them come in the office when you're here. So you come in and you find out that they know so little about what they have. So it's just all about communication. You have to communicate what's called a SAR, summary annual report, needs to be distributed. If you make plan amendments, you have to communicate the expenses that are built into the plan, both that are direct expenses that come out of their account and those that are indirect, which are built into the investment option. The other thing we tell advisors is everyone says, oh, I hired Fidelity or Vanguard. I'm not really responsible for this, they are. And that's true on some level, but that is more about the activity, the investment within the plan, making sure the interest and dividends get posted, that the allocation to the investments go according to the beneficiaries, or according to the participants' selection. We always tell our plan sponsors, you are responsible for money in and money out of the plan. So all the contributions getting to the plan on time is on you. Every time someone takes a withdrawal, whether it's a hardship, a loan, a distribution in retirement, that's on you. So if you have a 401k, you have to have someone who can spend whatever it is, 2 hours a month. They put it on their calendar, they check the money in, money out, they match the payroll. This is what came out of our system for the match, if it comes out of payroll or if it comes from a separate check, that it actually agrees to what we paid is what came into the plan. With that, I'm going to let Kelly cover a couple of things. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to talk briefly about a couple of areas where we see common operational issues during our audits. The first of which are late remittances of employee contributions. There are different rules for the timing of employee contribution remittances for small plans and large plans. Small plans that have participants under 100 employees have a safe harbor, which means as long as contributions are remitted within 7 business days, they're not considered late. For large plans, the government's rule is that employee contributions must be deposited at the earliest date that contributions can be segregated from the employer's assets. This usually means around the time the payroll is remitted, which is usually within 1 to 2 days of the payroll date. The government looks for consistency of the deposits. If contributions are normally remitted within 3 days, but a contribution is made in a 10-day period because the payroll clerk is on vacation, unfortunately, they consider this to be late. We encourage plan administrators to set a policy for when their contributions need to be remitted and to stick to that policy. What should you do if you have late contributions? The easiest thing to do is to self-correct, which is pretty straightforward. The company makes an employer contribution of lost earnings for the employees that are affected by the late contribution, which is usually a nominal amount. Late contributions are also required to be disclosed on the supplemental schedule that's attached to the annual 5500 filing. Forfeiture accounts are another area where issues come up. Administrators should know that annual allocation of the plan's forfeiture accounts are required. If forfeiture accounts aren't allocated properly, the plan could lose its qualified tax status. Basically what that means is at least once a year, the plan's forfeiture account should be brought to zero. Again, the plan document dictates how forfeiture accounts can be used. Typically, they're used to reduce employer contributions or to pay plan fees. Lastly, I wanted to mention vesting. The miscalculation of employee vesting is a very common area where we see operational errors. Again, vesting is defined in the plan document, including the vesting service period, which could be the plan year or an employee's anniversary date. We've seen administrators use the wrong period or not be consistent from employee to employee. The plan may require employees to meet certain service hours requirements, so the administrator needs to keep that in mind as well. We've also seen administrators use the wrong vesting schedule. like using a 6-year service period when the plan document calls for 5. Again, it's important to read the plan document and make sure that it's operating as intended. To sum it up, if issues are found, it's best to fix them yourself. Missed earnings for the corrective actions are usually pretty small, and if the government happens to find errors, there are likely heavy penalties involved, and if you fix it yourself, you can avoid all that. So that's all I had. Any questions?
So we do have time for some Q&A, so I know it's a lot of detail and it goes pretty deep, but what kind of questions are out there?
Oh, we were that boring, huh?
Spouse of an LLC that is non-working, can they participate?
Spouse of an LLC of a non-working, do they have income?
Should the spouse is not working in the company, but
No income.
is it, you're on the board?
No income.
No income.
There's no income.
Okay.
Anything else?
And you have to meet the hourly requirements to be eligible.
Which are?
Well, it all depends on your plan document, so. Torture question. Hi, Mary Pat.
Would you maybe just address, somewhat quickly about when you're acquiring a business and they have a 401k plan that exists and you might want to try to merge that into your plan?
Yeah.
What the issues might be, because people kind of don't think about this again sometimes.
And it's a great question. Thank you, Mary Pat. Nobody's met Mary Pat before. She's a genius. Nyla. So the question was, if you're buying a business and you have a plan and they have a plan, what do you do? It's a really complex question to answer. And this, and my first suggestion would be to call your plan administrator, somebody like Wes at Benefit Plans Plus. Call your auditor if you have one, assuming you do, and call your advisor, because it's really, you want to merge both plans together. It's a more complex thing than my first step would be to absolutely call your plan administrator, call Mary Pat, or call Mary Pat. She knows the answer. So it's a complex question. The simple answer is you have to merge them once you have bought the business. And it's not always as easy as we'd like it to be. And we see more and more of it now as some of the older businesses are, some of the older business owners are selling to non-employees. Anything else? George.
So, Zach, first of all, I really enjoyed your guys' presentation on language. That was spectacular. No, there needs to be a game show where experts are forced to speak like real people. So, the question I've got for you and for your partner is, in regards to pensions, are they dead? What are your thoughts on that?
You're referring to the defined benefit pensions?
Yeah.
Yes.
And tell me more about why you think
The liability has just become too great. The current economic environment doesn't allow for viable plans at this point. And we see that especially at the public pension level, where they're still trying to maintain defined benefit plans. They've just become too great a liability to corporations. You'll see more of the corporations moving their plans to insurance companies. Verizon was in the news last year, maybe it was the year before, for moving their entire pension over to Prudential and ridding themselves of the liability, they assume. I think more of that's going to happen. You see conversion from the defined benefit to the cash plan, which is happening at every financial institution with which I talk and have been associated. I still hold 2 defined benefit plans that are now cash balance plans, paying 4.4%.
I just worked this last year terminating a defined benefit plan, which I believe might have been the last one in our firm, and under the accounting rules, the tax rules, they were fully funded. When we went to terminate it, they still owed a couple $1 million more, because it's a different calculation on termination, and the owners absolutely had no understanding of that, and it's just I think it might have been the last defined benefit plan that our firm was involved with. There's just so much uncertainty for businesses. I think they're a thing of the past.
Yeah, you don't see them a lot anymore, and for anybody what a defined benefit plan is, it's a pension. Just real simple. We take for granted, and one of the parts Mike and I didn't touch on, I know the time is getting short, so I'm going to end it quick, but we take for granted the language that we all use in the businesses that we have, whether you're a lawyer, a banker, work in manufacturing, the words that all of us financial planners, we take for granted the words we use. Even Mike used the word inversion in there, and I'm like, oh, dear. We take for granted the words that we use every day. We don't even think about it. Defined benefit to a financial planner comes right up, we know. Defined benefit to somebody who works in engineering, you look and go, what? So if you ever hear words that you don't understand, if there's ever anything I can offer to anyone, because I do not want to, I promise that we wouldn't sell us up here, but the one service I will offer, more than anything else, is if you ever hear a word, a term, a phrase, kind of like what Mike and I joked about earlier, some of the terms that we didn't bother going back to touch on, I'm so available to answer those, because unlike most of the businesses that most of us work in, this is the one industry that touches all of us. And the words actually do matter. The phrases do matter. How these things work do matter for our success long term. And so I'm always available. My name is Zach. You can find me on LinkedIn. My last name is Dockman. I will help anybody answer even the dumbest question, because I promise you there are no dumb questions when it comes to this stuff. Just stupid answers. Please.
Would you comment on new offerings for the self-employed, like solo, was it solo?
There's solo Ks. So if you're self-employed, there are solo Ks. Most of what we do, and it doesn't make it right, but most of what we do for a self-employed is either a SUP, which is, here we go, digging into industry jargon again, self-employed pension plan. So what it really is the ability to put away 25% of your paycheck. It's an IRA. It's an IRA, essentially, is what it is. So if you're solo, look at a SEP, call an advisor, look at a SEP. We do see solo Ks from time to time. I've probably done 2 of them my entire career, and I've done this for over 10 years. So I know I only wrote 9 when I did my bio. You can tell, don't let me ever write ever again. So,
Clarifying on that, I believe it's correct to say the solo K does allow for greater contributions than the SEP.
it does. It does, but they're way more complex, and that's why we don't see a lot.
And you can say Roth is solo K.
Yeah.
Yes.
But you just don't see a lot of them. I don't know.
So comment what you can say about Roth in a solo K as well.
And if you do them, that's great. It's more about maybe the client base as much as anything, which is good.
What's the advantage for doing a SEP over solo? Because for clients that I've had that are solopreneurs, it seems like the solo for there's no downside to doing it over a SEP. If you're,
I think for some it's where we've seen the advantage is really, maybe it's because I'm old school and I've done it, I've been around it for so long that we were doing stuff. I grew up around it.
yeah.
And so maybe it's partly a preference more than anything else. Advantage. Subs are just easy. They're really easy to do. Solo Ks aren't uneasy, but they've been a little bit more work for the clients we've had. So yeah. It's preference. But yeah, there's solo Ks, there's subs.
There's more compliance with the 401. It's more complicated, it's more paperwork, there's more filings, but you can.
There's more flexibility.
There's some benefits in the solo 401ks.
A little more. But again, it's a preference though, as much as anything. Most of the solopreneurs we see don't earn enough anyway. So. What else? Everybody asleep? It's raining out. God, it's pouring. I'm waiting for It's terrifying. Thank God it's not snow. George Bailey.
I got another question, this time for Mike. Mike, you mentioned that it's always good to keep the payroll people in the loop when planning 401ks. Tell us a little bit more about why that is.
I appreciate the question. Alan actually was the one that was used to have.
Okay, thank you.
They're the ones that most employees talk to, right? They're the ones that say, I wanted 6% and it's only 4%, or how come this and that? And I need a hardship. They don't go to the owners, they don't go to the sponsors. They're embarrassed when they need a loan, they're embarrassed if they need a hardship. So the communication is almost always with either HR or payroll. And you want to make sure they're communicating what the plan allows, and you want to make sure they're complying with what, you know, the things that Kelly talked about, timely remittance. You can't do it once a month anymore. You have to do it with the pay period. If they don't know that, you're going to get fines. The fines by both IRS and DOL can be very large. And not to mention, they always throw the threat of disqualifying a plan, which means you disqualify a plan, means every person that, or the deduction that came through payroll is lost. It could go back some number of years. I've never seen that happen. It's always been negotiated away. It's always a threat. Just understand the plan. Make sure the people that work with the plan understand it.
Goes back to having a process. Yeah, go ahead, Louis.
All right, so
Sorry.
client is selling the company
Yeah.
and wants to wrap up the 401k, 3 employees, 5 employees, 7 former employees, can't find them. What do you do?
That's part of having a process in place. That is very, very common. You're responsible at the end of the day. I'm sorry.
You gotta leave the,
Yeah,
something
you
left.
are.
There's a government site that we've used with defined benefit plans where you pay so much to join and they reach out based on social security numbers. They can find it, pretty much anybody who's in the country. I've never had them say that we'll either get a death certificate or they'll find them. And it's not expensive, so you can find them. If you can't find them at all, then it becomes unclaimed property and it's turned over to the state.
To the state.
You had a question.
Yeah, more than just curiosity. Do you guys know the last 10, 15 years how participation in 401ks has changed as a percentage of income, just sort of generally?
I don't, off the top of my head, I mean, what we've seen is more, as the income's kind of steady, people are,
Are people putting more in than they did 10 years ago, or is it?
I think people are more aware now. You gotta remember, 401k is not that old. I mean, you know, our parents didn't all grow up with 401ks, they grew up with pensions. And so, I mean, you see more of us, but we also, there's more companies. It's a tough question. It's a good question. It'd be a question to be interested to go through.
Demographically, younger people are not contributing what they should, compared to what went on a while ago.
Which is crazy, because if you're young in this room, contribute now, you won't have to contribute later. So, power compound.
You know that, ask young people what they think of Social Security, and they all say it won't be there when I get to retirement age.
That's what I say.
Hey, ask old people, they're saying the same thing, so.
Unless it's true.
Go ahead, sir. Oh, great question.
What is all that?
Okay, so there's three numbers that you have to someone understand if you're a plan fiduciary. And it's a great question. It's a 321, a 338, and a 316. The advisors, Mike and I, some of the other gentlemen in the room and ladies, could be a 321 or a 338. A 338 basically helps run the plan for you. So the 338 comes in, they take the funds, they do all of it. At the end of the day, I hate to say it, you as plan sponsor are still responsible even though you passed the buck on it. A 321, the easiest, the best term we ever saw was co-defendant. So, they bring you, so like a lot of you who work with an advisor, they offer you that pick this fund, pick that fund, pick this investment, you say yes or no. That's what a 321 essentially does for you. A 316 is a whole different thing. That's for your administration, and if you hire a 316, they do all the administration, including signing your 5500. So, but again, at the end of the day, you as the plan sponsor are still responsible. Amazing, isn't it? So, you can only pass the buck so much. There's 4 pillars, and I really want to touch on this right before we leave because I know it's really time to go. Prudence, loyalty, diversification, and compliance. You have to actually know what they all are if you're a plan sponsor or a fiduciary. And the prudence one and the loyalty one are the ones that really troubles me. Anything else?
What's that one more time? Prudence, loyalty?
Prudence, loyalty, diversification, and compliance.
So Zach,
Yeah.
I have a quick question. So I've always heard
I think you take it, I think as a former president once said, you take the facts as you find them. I am not always of a believer in that. But I think, I generally say that, but I also, and I think you and I both know, there are times that you don't, but as a whole, I don't subscribe to that belief.
Okay, thank you. Taxes have a lot to do with that.
Taxes, and just look, this is your opportunity to save for the future because it's going to come much, much faster than we thought. We're in 2020. For most of us here, we can remember 2010, let alone when the millennium happened. I know where I was, and it doesn't seem that long ago, okay? That was 20 years ago. Most of us are going to blink and going to be old enough to retire, all right? So if you don't start planning now, it'll still be here. Any other questions, comments, concerns, complaints, consternations, thoughts, feelings? Nobody's sleeping? There's Boyette's already trying to get out of here. Everybody have